These are the video notes for special right triangles, and this time we're going to do a 30, 60, 90 degree right triangle. Last time we did a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. This time we're going to do 30, 60, 90. It is a little bit harder to do a 30, 60, 90 triangle. It's not so easy to remember, but it's not a lot harder. Alright, so to do this one, we're going to do a little trick with trigonometry. So I'm going to start with my short side right here, and I'm going to make it side length of 1. And the reason I picked trigonometry to do this is because if I do the cosine of 60 and the sine of 30 are both really easy, nice numbers. The cosine of 60 degrees is equal to 0.5, and the sine of 30 degrees is also equal to 0.5. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to figure out the hypotenuse, which I will call x, and then I'm going to use the hypotenuse and the short side to figure out the longer side, which I will call y. And then we'll see if we can find a pattern. Okay, so first we'll do the x using the 60 degree. We could use a 30, it doesn't matter. Let's use a 60. We're going to do cosine since we have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. And remember, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine of 60 is equal to 1 over x. And cosine of 60, if you remember right, is 0.5. Okay, so if we multiply, actually we switch because the x is in the denominator. If we do 1 divided by 0.5, we're going to get 2. So x is equal to 2. Okay, and then we can use the 2 and the 1 to figure out what y is. And we could do it with trig, or we could do it with Pythagorean theorem. We're going to do it with Pythagorean theorem because I want to keep it a nice square root. So we're going to do 1 squared plus y squared equals 2 squared. And that's 1 plus y squared equals 4. Subtract 1 from both sides. And we'll get y squared is equal to 3. Therefore, y is equal to square root of 3. So our y is equal to square root of 3. Okay, so that might be a pattern if we can get it to work for a couple more. So let's try it, and this time instead of using a 1 to start, let's do it again using a 2. So we're going to try it again with a 2. So try again with a 2. And before I do that, I'm going to try to predict the pattern. So I'm going to go back a little bit. Okay, my prediction is that if I make the 1 into a 2, my x is going to be 4. And my y is going to be, okay, I'm not so sure about that one, but let's just see if we can get the x to work first. It might be, if we do y, it might be 2 divided by square root of 3. That would be my guess, but let's just see. So my prediction is, so let's predict. We're going to predict that this time we're going to end up with a triangle like this. So here's my triangle. We're going to end up with 2. We're going to end up with 4. And we're going to end up with 2 times the square root of 3. Okay, so that's my prediction. Let's see if it'll work. Okay, so let's draw a triangle. There's a right angle. This side's 60. This side's 30. We're starting with a 2 this time. Here's our x. Here's our y. Okay, so first we'll do x. Okay, and we'll do it the same way we did before. We're going to do cosine of 60, which remember is 0.5, is equal to 2 over x. And then if I do 0.5 equals 2 over x, switch these, we'll end up with 2 divided by 0.5, which is the same as 2 times 2, which would be 4. Okay, so far my prediction is working out. We have a 4. Now for the y. So let's do Pythagorean theorem. We're going to do 2 squared plus y squared equals 4 squared. Okay, 2 squared is 4. Y squared is y squared, and 4 squared is 4 times 4 is 16. We'll subtract, and I will get 16 minus 4, which is 12. So y squared is equal to 12. Therefore, y is equal to the square root of 12. Hey, it don't look like it's going to work, does it? Except one thing. Remember, we can simplify the square root of 12. We can take a 4 and a 3 and factor 12 into 4 and 3. And since 4 is a perfect square, we're just going to split it like this. We're going to do y is equal to the square root of 4 times square root of 3. And there is what I was looking for. 2 times the square root of 3. Okay, so I seem to have a pattern. So if we have the short side, we double it and we get the big side, the hypotenuse. We multiply it by the square root of 3, we get the middle side, and that should be good. So let's try a couple. Okay, let's look at example 1. Here I have a right triangle. It's a 30, 60, 90 right triangle. I have the hypotenuse, which is equal to 9. I'm looking for A and B. Alright, so before I do this, because this is not, before we did the short side, now we are looking for the short side. And before we had the short side, so it was a little bit easier. But let's just see if we can get a pattern going. So here's the 60, here's the 30. Okay, I'm going to call the short side x. I know the hypotenuse was 2x. I know that the middle side was x times the square root of 3. Okay, so that's my pattern. Alright, so this time I have the 2x, which is the 9 side. Let's get the x side. All we have to do is, since it's 2x, we want to get x by itself. We'll just do this real simple equation. We have 2x equals 9. Then x is 9 halves. So b is equal to 9 halves. Okay, so there's our short side. And then since the middle side is x times the square root of 3, and b, which is right here, that's our x side, we'll just do b times the square root of 3, and we'll get a. So a is equal to 9 halves times square root of 3. It's not hard once you remember the pattern, but the hard part is just remembering the pattern. Okay, let's look at our next example. So this time we have the middle side. We're looking for the hypotenuse and the short side. So once again, we're just going to use our pattern. Remember what it was? X, 2x, x square root of 3. Okay, so 7 this time is on the middle side, which is x to the square root of 3. If we want to get the x by itself, we'll just get rid of the square root of 3 by dividing. So x this side is equal to 7 divided by the square root of 3. And remember, we can't have a radical in the denominator, so we have to rationalize. And so we'll get 7 square root of 3 over 3. Okay, so that's x. And then for u, it's 2x, so we'll just multiply it by 2. We'll do 2 times 7 square root of 3 over 3 equals 14 square root of 3 over 3. Okay, example 3. Here we have our 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. We have the short side, which is 9/2. We're looking for the middle side and the hypotenuse. So the middle side is y and the hypotenuse is x. Okay, so what I need to do first is remember the pattern. So we have a right triangle. And it's 30, 60, 90. So the short side, hypotenuse is 2 times the short side. And the middle side is the short side times square root of 3. That's the pattern you have to remember. So we have 9/2 for the short side on our triangle here. So I'm going to do 9/2 times 2 to get 9/2 times 2 to get x right here, because x is the hypotenuse. And 9/2 times 2 is just equal to 9. So x is 9. And then y is our middle side. So if we do y is equal to 9/2 times the square root of 3. And we're done.